My name is Alan Roberts. Many of you know me as Every Damn Day Fitness, or that angry bald dude, or that dude that talks about obese women, or some of you just know me as that fucking asshole. I can't stand him. I hit him with my car. But today, I had an interesting thought. Something that is used all the time by the fat acceptance community is the threat of, oh my God, the eating disorders from the 90s and 2000s. Nobody wants to go back there, how horrible it was. To excuse being gluttonously fat pigs. You know, like, heaven forbid, we don't want to lose weight because we don't want to go back to the 90s and 2000s when it was so unhealthy. Shut the fuck up. People were not that thin in the 90s and 2000s. They really weren't. Like, they're talking about the supermodels and everything like that. And of course, that's a problem too. As somebody that was an adult in the 90s, like running nightclubs and shit like that, people weren't that skinny. They really weren't. People were not that skinny. It was not that big of a fucking problem. And we're about to talk about how it wasn't that big of a problem. But I just, to point out, so many fat acceptance people talk about this. Like, we don't want to go back to I'm getting horrible 90s and 2000s, flashbacks of the thin is in, like acting like it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a way healthier thing than what we got going on right now. I mean, it's so true. And to make sure we see it, I wrote an article about it. And let's just get to it. This is why 90s fitness frenzies trumps today's snack attack. And I thought this was a super interesting article. In the 1990s and early 2000s, American culture celebrated thinness. Supermodels graced magazine covers. Fitness videos dominated home entertainment. And low-fat diets were all the rage. Fast forward to 2025, and the pendulum has swung hard. Obesity is increasingly normalized, with body positivity movements on the sidelines often sidelining health concerns in favor of acceptance. But let's cut through the noise with cold hard data. The push for thinness in the 90s, while flawed, was a societal win compared to today's dangerous embrace of obesity. Like, when you say we don't want to go back there, why the fuck don't you? I don't understand. Like, why don't we want people to be thin? Why do we not want people to be thin or aspire to be in shape? They frame it. It's always framed as it's like this huge negative. It's framed right now that it would be very dangerous to us to go back to the thought process of thin is in, like in the 90s. And it's just not. Like, the data does not support this at all whatsoever. The data simply does not support the concept that the 90s and 2000s were horrible and what we have going on now is in any way fucking healthier. It is catastrophically different. And we're about to go over some hard numbers. The numbers don't lie. Obesity is killing Americans at a rate 9 to 18 times higher than intentional underweight deaths ever did. While we must protect those at risk of starving themselves, the risk of a culture that shrugs at gluttony are catastrophic. Back in the 90s, that was in, think Kate Moss, aerobics classes and calorie counting diets. The cultural obsession with low body fat wasn't perfect, far from it. Media portrays the rail thin models set unrealistic standards, and for some, the pursuit of thinness spiraled into dangerous territory. But to be clear, the societal focus on fitness and lower body weight aligned with health outcomes in a way today's obesity acceptance just simply does not. Mortality from intentional weight loss, specifically from purposeful starvation, like eating disorders such as anorexia nervosa, was real but limited. Studies from that period estimate that eating disorders contributed to approximately 6,700 deaths annually in the U.S. Anorexia, with a mortality rate of 5 to 10% amongst people that have it, that are actually diagnosed with it. Most victims were young women, often in their teens and 20s, chasing an ideal body. The deaths were tragic, of course. Early intervention, mental health support, a balanced media, representation are non-negotiables that we should actually all want right now in our society. But the scale of this issue was small compared to today's obesity epidemic. In 2000, underweight, which is a BMI of 18.5 or below, was linked to roughly 33,746 excess deaths annually, but only a fraction, likely under 10,000 of them, stemmed from intentional starvation. The rest were tied to involuntary weight loss from illness or aging. In contrast, obesity's death toll today dwarfs these numbers, exposing a public health crisis we can't ignore. Flash forward to 2025, and obesity is no longer just a health issue, it's a cultural norm. Over 42% of U.S. adults are obese, up from 23% in 1990. Body positivity campaigns, while well-intentioned, often downplay the medical risk of excessive weight. Social media celebrates all bodies, but the data screams a different story. Obesity is the leading cause of preventable death, linked to heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and cancer. The mortality numbers are staggering. Recent studies estimate obesity contributes anywhere from 300,000 to 600,000 deaths annually in the United States. A 2023 study using the Ed Haynes data found that excess weight, BMI of over 25, including obesity, accounts for 1 in 6 deaths in the United States, roughly 500 to 600,000 per year based on 3.5 million total deaths. Obesity alone, BMI over 30, drives the lion's share with 22 to 91% increased mortality risk compared to normal weight. These aren't abstract numbers. Obesity-related conditions like heart disease, the top U.S. killer, and type 2 diabetes, surging in younger populations are skyrocketing also. Life expectancy for severe obesity, including individuals with a BMI of over 40, is slashed by 5 to 20 years. Like the 90s, underweight deaths, which were concentrated in a small demographic. In the 1990s and early 2000s, intentional starvation from eating disorders caused an estimated 6,700 to 10,000 deaths per year. Today's obesity-related deaths range from 300,000 to 600,000 per year. So conservative estimate of this number for obesity of 300,000 divided by the large number for underweight deaths being 33,746, that's 9 times higher already. But the high-end estimate of 600,000 divided by 33,746 is 18 times higher. However, if you have it just eating disorders over obesity deaths, 300,000 divided by 6,700, that's 45 times higher. It would be 90 times higher if we would use the 600,000 number. Think about that. So when people would say, like, well, we don't want to go back to the 90s and 2000s, ask them why the fuck not. I don't want nobody to die of starvation, especially, or anorexia or anything like that. But, newsflash, people die. I want to find a way to make less people die. Which one are you going to fucking pick? It's not a healthy look to look like you're the Michelin Man. It's just not. I wish people could understand that. And it's not about looks. I'm literally talking about people's lives here. I'm talking about life and death. The solution isn't to swing the pendulum towards obesity acceptance. The risks aren't comparable. Anorexia affects 5 to 1% of the population. Obesity affects over 40% of adults and is climbing in children. The former is a targeted mental health issue. The latter is a systemic public health disaster. We can protect the vulnerable without excusing gluttony. Gluttony isn't a lifestyle, it's a killer.